Every single time you shop online or check your email or even just scroll through social media, you're using a web application. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this vital and often invisible world of security that keeps all those apps and your entire digital life safe and sound. It's a question we should all probably be asking ourselves more often. I mean, think about it. You type in your password, your credit card number, your private messages, but what really stands between all that sensitive information and someone who wants to get their hands on it? Well, the answer is web application security, and that's our focus today. I want you to imagine for a second that every website you use is a digital building. You got your bank, your favorite online store, maybe even your doctor's patient portal. Each one has a digital front door, right? And that door needs a really, really solid lock. So we're about to find out what it takes to protect those front doors.
At its heart, this is all about finding and fixing the weak spots. The digital unlocked windows or those flimsy door frames before an attacker can wiggle their way through. It's really a constant, vigilant defense against an online world of threats that, believe me, is always evolving.
Okay, so when we talk about securing anything, whether it's a bank vault or a website, we're really trying to achieve three basic goals. In cybersecurity, we call this the CIA triad, and it's pretty much the bedrock of all security principles. It's like the rules of the game.
Let's break this down real quick. Confidentiality. That's all about making sure only the right people can see sensitive data. Your messages are for your eyes only. Then there's integrity, which guarantees that data can't be messed with. The price of that thing in your shopping cart shouldn't just magically change on you. And finally, availability. This one's simple. The service has to be there when you actually need it. These three pillars, they're the foundation every secure application is built on.
So, those are the goals. But what happens when things go wrong? Let's switch gears and dive into the anatomy of an attack. We're going to look at the most common ways that attackers try to get past a website's defenses. It's time to meet the threats.
And here's something that might surprise you. Most modern cyber attacks are actually less about brute force and more about clever manipulation. Attackers rarely waste time trying to guess millions of passwords. Nope. Instead, they look for these ingenious little ways to trick the system into just opening the door for them.
Let's look at three of the heavy hitters. First, an SQL injection. This is kind of like asking a librarian a very cleverly worded question that tricks them into handing you a book from the restricted section. Then you've got cross-site scripting, or XSS. Think of this as leaving a nasty little note inside a library book for the next person to find and fall into a trap. And finally, cross-site request forgery. This is just like forging someone's signature to make their browser do something they never ever intended.
And believe me, the list goes on. Broken authentication is basically like having a lock that's super easy to pick. Sensitive data exposure? That's as risky as writing your credit card info on a postcard and mailing it. And security misconfiguration? Well, that's the digital version of accidentally leaving the back door of your house wide open. Each one is a critical point of failure.
Okay, so understanding the threats is step one. But now let's focus on the solution. How do we build a digital fortress? The good news is there's a well-established security playbook that developers can follow to defend against these exact kinds of attacks.
Two rules are absolutely fundamental. First, you have to validate all input. This just means you treat any data coming from a user as potentially hostile until you've checked it out, like a bouncer checking every single ID at the door. Second, and this is totally non-negotiable, you always use HTTPS.
The difference here is like night and day. If you see a URL that starts with just HTTP, any data you send is like that postcard we talked about. Anyone snooping on the network can read it. But if it has that S for secure, it's like sending your data in a sealed armored truck. Only the person on the other end has the key. This is absolutely crucial.
A fortress is only as strong as the guards on the wall. Security isn't a one-time setup. It needs constant vigilance, constant maintenance to keep those walls secure. So let's take a look at the ongoing security checklist that every responsible developer should be following.
This means doing things like implementing strong authentication, two-factor authentication, to prove you are who you say you are. It also means conducting regular security testing. You're basically trying to hack your own systems to find the weaknesses before the bad guys do. Of course, you have to keep all your software up to date. We call it patch management. And finally, you have to be smart with error messages, so they're helpful to you, but don't accidentally leak clues to an attacker.
This all brings us to a fundamental truth of cybersecurity, and it's captured perfectly here. Security is not a product, but a process. You can't just buy it and then you're done. It's an ongoing journey, not a destination. Why? Because the threats are constantly changing, so our defenses have to change right along with them.
So next time you're online, just take a second. Look for that little padlock icon and the HTTPS in the address bar. Now you know what that really means, what layer of protection it represents, and why it matters so much. Be aware and be secure out there. Thanks for watching.